Hey there, Dan Martell here, serial entrepreneur, investor, and creator of SaaS Academy. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to go boom, raise some money, more than $100, but I'm going to teach you how to create a fundraising narrative to help your fundraising process be super easy. And be sure to stay to the end where I'm going to share with you an exclusive resource called my Fundraising Like a Pro training, which I break down the 3 phases of fundraising and tell you exactly how to reach out and get connected to investors. Share those at the end. Let's kick it. So the other day I was on a growth session with a potential coaching client named Rodrigo in San Francisco, and he asked me, he's like, hey, we're about to raise some funding, but I don't understand kind of like what do investors look for and how do I create the process and how do I make it so that it's easy and I don't spend 6 to 9 months out there in the market trying to raise little bits of money from a bunch of people. And it was such a great question that actually walked him through the things that I think need to be present to actually create a fast and momentum-driven fundraising process, and really the narrative, the story that you kind of want to craft to get investors excited about your startup. You know, I've been super fortunate to have raised money twice for my last 2 companies, Flowtown.com and Clarity, from some of the top investors in the Valley. So Steve Anderson from Baseline Ventures and Freestyle Capital, and just some amazing dudes. And what I've learned in helping other entrepreneurs raise over 150 million of capital for themselves is there's definitely a process around the story arc and the narrative. And that's what I want to share with you in this video. Step 1, 2 peaks. This is the big idea. There are 2 times, the best times, to raise money for your startup: before you're publicly available and after you figure it all out. Because here's what's normal in a startup world is before you launch, you've got some early traction and customers using it. Maybe you're in private beta. That's the best way to do that. And things are feeling really good. And then you launch publicly and you expect, I'm going to get covered on TechCrunch and all these media outlets, and it's just going to, I'm going to go on Product Hunt and it's just going to take off and rocket ship out of the, in outer space. And that's just usually not what happens. What happens is it kind of goes up and then it flattens and it comes down. You have churn issues and you have monetization issues and you have product hook issues and all these things that aren't working out. And you work your butt off for like another 1.5 years, and then finally you get to a level of product market fit where the product comes back and there's more traction. Now, there's 2 of the best times to raise is before you're publicly available and after you figure it all out. So what I would say if you're early stage is keep the product in private beta, have a way for people to subscribe to be notified when you open up to the public. And that way you can create a lot of excitement for what the potential could be around your product and traction in the market so that investors can feel like they're in early. Now, if you've already launched, unfortunately, you got to go all the way through that trough of challenges and get on the other side. And at that point where you feel like you're starting to get that growth curve, you can get investors back excited. So I hate to be the burster of bubbles, but if you've already launched, you kind of got to go over here. If you haven't launched yet, use that strategy. Number 2, pre-marketing. Okay, so most people don't realize that fundraising isn't like, oh, I've decided to raise money and now I'm going to go and talk to investors. There's actually a whole phase before. There's 3 phases. The first phase is pre-marketing. This is where you actually start doing the research for who are the best investors, who are the entrepreneurs, and get you introduced to those investors, and make sure that you time the sequence to create momentum in the conversations, and that you're literally meeting with one investor in the, maybe 2 or 3 investors in the morning and 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and you're going maybe to San Francisco and Boston and New York in a way that's very strategic to create a bunch of buzz, because investors talk to each other. Especially if you're doing an early stage round, you want to make sure that you get maybe 1 lead and a bunch of other people to help fill out the composition of your fundraising. So to me, the pre-marketing phase is how you create a narrative or a conversation in the market to get people excited. And that is around the research of, and I'll give you the first tip is, only raise money from people that understand your industry or understand the problem that you're solving. Too many people are pitching investors that don't know B2B SaaS, or if you're in mobile apps or fintech or whatever it is for you, and they'll take the meeting because they want to learn and meet great founders, but they probably would never have invested. So there's a whole strategy around that. Again, I'm going to share you how to get the Fundraising Like a Pro training to teach you how to go through that filtering process. But make sure that you allocate at least 6 weeks to the pre-marketing phase of research, connecting with entrepreneurs that have raised money from those investors, and having those conversations way before you ever decide to start raising money officially. Number 3, manufacture traction. Now, this is not, I'm going to preface this by saying this is not to be deceiving or screw with the numbers or lie about any level of traction you've had. All I'm saying is that there is a way to create a hockey stick. And the way this works, especially if you're not public yet, or if you can time or sequence your partnerships or whatever growth, if you're investing in paid acquisition and you have a channel that's performing, you can sequence the growth curve to ramp up. And I think this is what a lot of the accelerators do. I know that I've heard stories at Y Combinator where they pretty much say, look, your goal is to build this growth curve and just make sure that it continues to grow over time. So how do you manufacture traction? Well, if you've got a list of beta users that have subscribed to be notified when you open up the product, well, then it makes a lot of sense if you know you're going to raise, 3 months from now, to slowly ramp up. If you had 1,000 people, start with 200, let them in the product, let them use it, get some conversions to paid, then let like 300 or 400 people, then let 600 people in. And what you do, and it's reality. You're just like slowly phasing people into the product. You'll create that growth ramp. And you can do that with partnerships. So you can like sequence the partnerships in a way where it kind of builds that momentum. And this is what a lot of accelerators teach their founders to do, because it just looks better as a story, as a fundraising narrative, and it's something that you have control over. So definitely recommend that you do that so that when you go to the market, you've got that built out. Just don't do it in a way that if you don't have enough kind of gas to sustain that all of a sudden you have a huge dip and then you're trying to talk to investors because they're going to ask what happened on that dip. Number 4, team story. So here's the deal. Most investors at the early stage will always say, I invest in the person, not the product. And the reason why is at the end of the day, the product more than likely will pivot and shift. I mean, this is true for every one of the companies I've built and many of the companies. I've invested in over 40 companies, Intercom, Hootsuite, Unbounce. And even though the core problem they were solving may not have shifted, but the product did. What was always true and consistent was the people. So the way I think about the team story is, if there's any challenges in your business, maybe you guys don't come from the industry, or you've never started a company before, or you're attacking a market that typically only sells to mid-market or enterprise and you guys have never done that before. Whatever the objections you think an investor might have around your team and experience, you want to overcome that with advisors, okay? Or make sure that if you know that there's an objection they might have and you have a great answer from a team point of view, maybe they're like, well, you've never scaled this company to 100 million users. And you're like, no, but our CTO has, he used to work at Facebook. That's the kind of thing where you want to make sure that in the narrative, in the conversation, that you front load into that talking with investors. So the way I think about it is you want to list all the weak points of the business model, your team, the experience, and then find advisors or front load conversations about the specific characteristics of members on your team so that you can overcome that. So it just slowly takes, because I mean, the truth is investors want a de-risked opportunity, okay? They would love to invest in fast traction, high growth, big market, big opportunity, a clear outcome for either public offering or exit. And they want to make sure that there's little to no risk in regards to where you're at in early stages, where you're at today and who's going to fund you in your next round. And that's the way I think about it. The team story needs to be rock solid, and that's the way you overcome that. So quick recap, 4 steps to creating a rock solid fundraising narrative for your startup. 1, make sure you pick the right 2 peaks, before you launch publicly or after you figured it all out. Number 2, do the work on pre-marketing phase. 3, manufacture traction in a way that shows a growth curve. And 4, ensure that you have an incredibly powerful team story to get investors excited about your business. As I mentioned earlier, I want to share with you an incredible resource called the Fundraising Like a Pro training. It's something I created a few years ago for my portfolio companies. I've invested in a ton of software businesses and they're always going through a fundraising process. So I want to give them my strategies that I've done to raise for my last 2 companies faster. I mean, Clarity raised 1.6 million in 7 days, and I break down that strategy in that training, so you can click below to get access to that. And if you like this video, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to my channel. And if there's anybody that you care about that you think this video could serve, feel free to share it with them directly. And as per usual, I want to challenge you to live a bigger business and a bigger life, and I'll see you next Monday. How to get the money. The money.